What's going on, you guys? Michael Elefante here. Today I'm going to walk you through the complete investment breakdown, all the details of the 6th Airbnb property that we ever invested in. And this one, just like the 5th one, is also located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We bought this at the very peak of the market. We knew that, but we invested in several properties before that had gone up in so much in value that we had actually done 3 cash out refis and pulled out, I forget the total amount. It was like $700,000 plus in tax-free money that we needed to reinvest. So we spent a chunk of that money on this property. So technically it was no money out of our own pockets, meaning our checking or savings account. If you guys want to learn how to do this, by the way, I highly recommend just going to BNB Investor Academy.com. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. I've taught over 1,000 people how to do exactly what I'm going to talk to you about in this video. So this property, as I mentioned, bought it at the peak of the market. It was quite a nice house, honestly. It had been rehabbed by the homeowners that had lived there for 10, 15 years or so. It was in the exact location we wanted it to be in, which is the Coral Ridge area in Fort Lauderdale, which is kind of in between Lauderdale by the Sea and the Las Olas downtown area of Fort Lauderdale, and it's east of Highway 1. So it's pretty much walking distance or biking distance to Lauderdale by the Sea, which is one of the nicer beach areas where people actually swim, tons of restaurants that you can walk to, coffee shops and stuff like that, just in a really good zip code. So we knew it was gonna perform well. Just like the first one, we were looking for a property that had a really nice pool, nice interior, nice kitchen, and we could accommodate at least 10 people that are traveling. And we also added a pool heater to this one like we did the last one, because we realized very quickly that everyone and their mother, when they come visit Fort Lauderdale, and just like Scottsdale and Phoenix, if you don't have a pool heater, you're missing out on easily tens of thousands of dollars of money every single year in bookings. So we ended up adding a pool heater after we got a first few requests if the pool was heated, and we said no, and they just never booked. So we added that very quickly. I'm gonna walk you guys through the purchase price, the down payment, closing costs, the rehab, and the total furniture, how much money we spent on this property and how it's been performing over the past year or so. Purchase price, $1,495,000. I know this is crazy, but we paid a premium for this location, all things considered, in the time of the market. Interest rates had just started to tick up. Now, they hadn't gone crazy like they are today, but they had just started to tick up, so we knew we wanted to reinvest some of that money from the cash out refis and lock in a relatively low interest rate. So we were in like the mid 4s, I believe, for this property. We did a 15% down DSCR loan. We probably got like one of the last 15% on DSCR loans on the market before a lot of the lenders tightened up and said we require an 80% LTV, loan to value ratio, meaning you have to put 20% down. You know, I mentioned this on a recent video, but DSCR loan stands for debt service coverage ratio. And basically what the lenders are looking at in this case, instead of looking at my debt to income ratio, my DTI, they're looking at the debt service coverage ratio of the investment property itself. So if the forecasted rents as a long-term rental, and in some cases they'll make an exception like here as a short-term rental, cover the mortgage on a 1-to-1 or a 1 to 1.1 or 1.2 ratio, they'll lend you the money assuming you have a credit score that qualifies and you have proof of funds for a down payment and closing costs. So we were approved to do 15% down. So the total down payment was $224,250. I'll say it like I've said in some other recent videos, guys, you don't freak out if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have that kind of money. I can't get started today. Screw you, Michael. Not the case, guys. I started with way less, and I've coached people that have started with as little as like 10 grand. So there's ways to get started in the Airbnb space without hundreds of thousands of dollars. At this point in our investing career, this is our 6th property. We're now making 30, 40, 50,000 a month in net cash flow. We had so much equity that we pulled out through cash out refis. We were able to level up our investments. And as you start investing, you'll see the snowball grow in your own career. So total down payment, just shy of $225K. Closing costs, we didn't have too much wiggle room because it was still a seller's market. Closing costs totaled $32,252. I do believe after the inspection, we got them to pay, maybe 5 or 10K towards our closing costs, which was helpful. Rehab, we didn't spend a ton on rehab like we had in previous properties, but this was really more so on landscaping in the backyard to turn it into more of like a little oasis around the pool. And then we repainted the house and just did a couple other minor things. $26,812. It's a 4-bedroom property, and we went a little higher end with furniture than we did in the past. We just wanted to make sure, and it is important, quality of furniture for this part of town for being a higher end rental that we're hoping, at the time, hoping to get like $700, $800, $900, $1,000 a night for. You need to have good furniture that can comfortably accommodate the clientele that are visiting the area. We spent $48,360 on furniture. So if you add all of those things up, total dollars invested between down payment, closing costs, rehab, furniture, and other setup costs totaled $331,674. Not the most that we've ever spent on a property. I think the last video I did, it was in the 400,000s because we had such a big rehab, but nonetheless, a lot of money on the line here. Fort Lauderdale has been pretty busy. The first several months, it was honestly slower to launch than I was anticipating, but also we launched in April of 2022, so just at the very end of busy season. So we had a couple decent months and then it really slowed down. September, October, hurricane season down in Florida, it was ungodly slow. So there was 1 or 2 months where we lost a little bit of money. I still wasn't worried, I was discouraged a little bit, but then it picked up December, January, February, March, April. We have been booked, like slam booked. So it has, the investment has definitely been well worth it. There's been months where we've cash flowed $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in a single month. So it has been performing quite well. And I mentioned in the video that we did on the other Fort Lauderdale property, the reason we bought these two down there is because it has reverse seasonality to that of Nashville and Gatlinburg, which is where our first 4 were located. So we wanted something that could add some cash flow to the January, February, March, like a little bit of the slower months in the other markets, and balance out our cash flow as a whole throughout the year. This property, hindsight, looking back, I think it was a good investment. It's gonna perform long term, but part of me wishes that we stuck to our original method, which is buying properties that need a little bit of work. This one was more turnkey, so we basically had to pay premium market value for it at the time. All the other properties were a little bit cheaper, so we could spend more money on rehab and bring the after repair value up, and we're able to leverage equity and have a really high cash flow because the mortgage still had remained somewhat low. But I think it still is panning out as pretty solid. Cash flow's been good. So anyways, quick breakdown of the investment details. If you guys want to learn, remember, go to bnbinvestoracademy.com. Would love to hear from you, and you can book a free consultation call with my team. We'll walk through everything, exactly how we go through the market research and analysis, finding properties, where to invest and why, what types of properties, and then setting them up for success and managing them to maximize cash flow and ROI. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll drop a link to it down in the description below. If you guys aren't subscribed, do me a favor, subscribe if you guys found some value in this content, and hope to see you guys again in the future.